What is up, everyone? I'm Skratch. Welcome to the channel. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. They released the fusion plan for the Timit, the Fool, guys. And we're gonna have a quick look at the calendar. And we're gonna try him out quickly, just briefly, to see if the champion is what we thought he is. Some people are saying that decreasing the duration of buffs will trigger polymorph because it's considered in the coding as removing the buffs, as stealing the buffs, etc. Now, from my personal experience and for my logic, that should not be the case, should not be the same. Then there are other people that kind of like think the same thing like me, and removing the duration of buffs, decreasing the duration of buffs, my bad, is not going to trigger polymorph. Now, there are a lot of people thinking that this champion is completely trash. I personally don't think that he's so bad, and I do see more utility in him than some of the previous fusions we've had recently, you know? So, that being said, let's just quickly check the fusion plan first. So here we are, get a new legendary champion from the Bannerlords. Now he does have a partner. The partner tends to be more interesting, actually. I wish she was the fusion instead. She was definitely going to be received much better than Timit the Fool. You're going to have a total of 130 fragments that you can collect. 20 of them come from tournaments leaderboards. Champion Chase Tournament and Champion Training Tournament, how you may notice right here on the screen. And that means that we're gonna have to open shards in the Summon Rush and in the Champion Chase Tournament. So 55 from tournaments, 55 from events, 15 from the Champion Chase Tournament, 15 from the Summon Rush. So you need to have some shards saved up. I hope that the Summon Rush fragments are split in two, so you can collect 5 and 10. That will enable you to dodge some of the Summon Rush and go all in on the Champion Chase Tournament when we have the 2x next weekend. And I do think it's better in a way because you can use some fragment fusions if you had anything from before, fragment champions if you had any saved up, do some fusions like Broadma or other ones. We do have the new mythical fusion which allows you to fuse some champions in there, and that will give you points in the Champion Chase Tournament, you know, so it will be more accessible to get the full fragments from there, in my opinion. Or if you have a lot of Sacred saved up, it's going to be easier to get them in the Summon Rush. They don't tend to split the fragments in the Champion Chase Tournament, so they usually come in one batch, so that will kind of like make you to complete that necessarily, you know. That will give you options to skip different things if you want, though, anyway. So, starting today, probably you've noticed in game, we have the Spider Tournament together with the Dungeon Divers event, which is nice. You can start the Spider today, go and do it, no problem. Then, tomorrow you're going to have a Champion Training event starting. Get ready for that too, together with the Dungeon Divers. It's going to be nice. And you have Summon Rush. Now, what I like, we only have 2 Dungeon Divers event, and that's massive. Some of the previous fusions had 3, and my god, was so painful to get them done, okay? Was very, very painful to get all of them done. Right here, with this Dungeon Divers event, you have 3 events in one. Spider Tournament, Dragon Tournament, Champion Training Tournament. That should be enough to complete the Dungeon Divers without having to go the extra mile. Then for the second Dungeon Divers, you're going to have the Champion Training Tournament. You're still going to catch the last day of the Ice Golem, so you're going to have to either wait with it, either don't risk it and complete that before, and you're going to have the Fire Knight Tournament. We have 2 arena takedowns, which are fairly decent. Then, of course, you have 3 artifact enhancement, which are very costly usually, so you need a lot of silver prepared for it. So this is the fragment event calendar, guys, the fusion calendar. And yeah, you do need to summon, but I don't necessarily think that is the biggest issue. How probably some of you guys noticed in the past fusions, the Dungeon Divers events and other things like this were the biggest issue and the biggest wall to complete the fusion, basically, you know. So, Timit the Fool. Let's just quickly check something. Probably you guys are already familiar with the skills, but we're quickly gonna check them again. So the A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit heals this champion by 10% of their max HP. If the target has no active buffs, each hit also fills this champion's star meter by 10%, which is nice. The A2, this is the main skill in question, attacks all enemies, decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 3 turns. So this one right here, guys, this should basically strip everything, don't trigger polymorph because it's not an effect that steals or removes buffs, okay? This is very different, and it should be very different in the coding, similar with Arbiter's A2 or other champions that do that. Then the A3 attacks all enemies before attacking, places an increased accuracy on all allies, and a True Fear on all enemies for 1 turn. True Fear is helpful in PvE content, is helpful in PvP content too, but it's kind of like increasing the risk of getting polymorph with it. But it's not such a big deal in the lower tiers. You know, it's not a champion that most people will necessarily use in every single offense team. I feel like it's gonna be more niche, but he will have his place in the game. That's at least my opinion on the champion. And the A2, I missed to read the rest of the skill here. If there are no enemies with active buffs, grants an extra turn. If Kaja is on the same team, he will gain an extra turn regardless, you know. Now, most of the times you will encounter enemies with Stone Skin, you will encounter enemies with Bolster, okay? So that right there already kind of like scraps his chance of gaining an extra turn directly in the fight because of the Bolster set, which cannot be removed. This skill does not decrease the duration of protected buffs, okay? That cannot happen to them. The passive, whenever an enemy skill successfully activates while they are under a Fear or True Fear debuff, Timit will get Turn Meter. When Kaja is on the same team, he will place a Provoke on the enemy, which is pretty nice actually, having that Provoke. Accuracy aura for all battles. Now, quickly, let's try that out. Then we're going to check a bit Kaja and see how nice they actually interact with each other. Are they really gonna be a nice couple to use? Are they gonna be creating some nice synergy all around or anything interesting? I've already tried this probably 6, 7, 8 times, and the result was always the same, okay? So let me just quickly show you what I'm talking about, because it's pretty important. Decreasing the duration of debuffs will not trigger polymorph. So let's just establish that. Of course, how I mentioned, protected buffs cannot be decreased, so when they are using that, it's not going to be effective against it. That's why I'm saying he will never really gain an extra turn. You have the Bolster that's in the meta, right? In every single arena tier. You have a Stone Skin, which is everywhere again, 50-50 chance to remove it. But then is a nice idea to be able to decrease the duration of all the buffs by 3 turns, basically remove them, because that's kind of like what it does under a different coding, and strip the enemies without triggering polymorph. I feel like it's definitely a very niche thing and very, very interesting, allowing us to maybe do something in the future. You know, something in the future is gonna be pretty nice for the Hydra clan boss when they steal buffs. You know, you're not gonna get polymorphed in there, so you don't have to worry. You can use block buffs or a champion that strips buffs in general, but you're gonna get increased accuracy in there and other things. So that's a good thing so far about the fusion champion. That's my main thing that I wanted to see about him. And if we're quickly going to check his partner, Kaja the Rai, I hope they're gonna do a guaranteed event, because I feel like we haven't had one in a long time, and a lot of people will probably like to get this champion. Fairly good base stats for a support champion. Attacks one enemy, heals this champion by 10% of their max HP. If any teammates are on the same team, heals all of them by the same amount. Okay, so I feel like this was corrected. Maybe it was when I checked the champions the other day and I've done my video, I feel like this text was different. Maybe I remember it different. The A2 revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter, then places an increased crit rate buff and an increased crit damage buff on them for 2 turns, which is nice to have that. It's better if you have, for example, something that gives you survivability rather than increased crit rate and crit damage, but you know what? It's something interesting to have. If Timit the Fool is on the same team and dead, revives them with full HP and full turn meter. If Timit the Fool is on the same team and alive, resets the cooldown and instantly activates their Kegs of Dread skill. Now, this is talking about plural, guys, okay? Maybe they're talking about using multiple Timits the Fool in the same team. When I've done the other video, I didn't thought about it. You know why? Because it makes no sense. Why would you want to use 2 Timits in the same team? He's not a damage dealer. He's not getting extra damage from books, so his multipliers are pretty weak sauce. And the rest of the skills, you don't need 2 champions to fill the role of one. You know, like, it's pointless to use 2 Timits in your team. Your team will be trash like that. So I didn't thought about it as an idea to use multiple ones because it makes no sense whatsoever, you know. So either that, either they're just kind of like trying not to give them a gender, or I don't know what they're trying to do here, basically. Then fills the perimeter of all allies by 20%. Also removes 2 random debuffs from each ally. If Timit the Fool is on the same team, removes all debuffs from all allies. That's nice. You're getting a cleanse if they're together. Then puts a block debuffs on all allies for 1 turn. Shame that the block debuffs is only for 1 turn, honestly, because if it would be for 2 turns, it would be much, much better. Then the passive, all perimeter reduction effects are decreased by 50% when used against this champion. And if Timit is on the same team, you cannot decrease this champion's perimeter. And on top of it, if any enemy tries to decrease this champion's perimeter when Timit is on the same team, fills this champion's perimeter instead by the same percentage. So that's actually pretty nice. And you have a speed aura for all battles. This would have made a much, much better fusion for Halloween, but of course, they always leave the stronger partner out of the equation. Let me know if you guys are tempted by Timit the Fool. I will personally go and get the fusion just because of that A2 that might serve something in the future, who knows. And yeah, that was all for this video. Much love, appreciate every single one of you guys watching, and I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Peace.